We've always had room in our hearts for film and TV, not just on Netflix, but tape and disc and theaters. Also, God forbid that they take it all away and leave us nothing to broadcast to loyal listeners. We'll binge watch every single movie, so you don't have to. What else are we here for? Coming to you every week. Listen to us while you're busy. Luckily, we forgot to grow up. Hey everybody, it's Craig.
Hey, it's Scott.
Hey, it's Andrew.
Welcome to episode number 86 of the Forgot to Grow Up podcast. On this week's episode, we're talking about big stuff. Literally big things.
And we're talking about Andrew, his favorite movies.
We're talking about Godzilla.
Close enough.
That's, yeah, I don't know. That's
I
all.
don't know what to say that.
That's all I have to say about this, about Godzilla.
And that's all I have to say about that.
Thanks for tuning in this week, guys. We'll catch you next week when we introduce a topic and then skip right to the ending again. And then we'll do Godzilla, and then we'll talk about what we watched this week. And I feel like we're going to talk about some interesting things on that part of the show. So maybe stick around for the last 10 minutes. And
10 minutes. Have you even listened to our podcast, Craig?
I'm going last. I just want them to skip to my part.
Oh, okay. That's fair. That's fair.
All right. So, full disclosure, never seen a Godzilla film of any kind.
None of them.
Never wanted to, and probably never will want to. It just doesn't. It's just not my thing.
Not into giant
What is it that
monsters
deters you from them?
It just seems, I don't know, it just seems boring, and it's really not my thing. Unless they've got some sort of great gimmick, like what was that J.J. Abrams film? Is it Cloverfield?
Yeah, I think
the one with the So if they've got something like that,
with shaky cam,
that's not even really. It was the first.
I don't like it in my
idea.
porn, and I sure shit don't like it in my movies.
So unless they've got one of those things going on.
So a giant lizard that breathes fire, not gimmick enough.
No.
Nuclear fire.
Nuclear fire, my correction.
Nuclear
Atomic
fire.
actually,
Arguably too gimmicky.
Okay,
maybe I want some art in my Godzilla film. Maybe that's what I'm actually looking for.
Watch the Godzilla movie that came out in, 2014? Art. Beautiful. Gorgeous.
I would like my Godzilla films to be artistic and readily accessible. How readily accessible is Godzilla from 2014?
You go to Walmart in Peterborough, you walk up into their cheap movie bin, and you say, holy fuck, $4? And then you buy that shit.
That's too far. It's too much, man.
Well, then I will go back to the Shamong Walmart in Peterborough and say, holy shit, $4? And I will buy a second copy this week. You're welcome.
I am looking it up now.
Put that with your new toaster.
It's funny because the 2014 one does seem like it would have like a cast
Bryan
that might appeal to you.
Cranston's in there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Not for long, though.
Well,
Spoilers.
Well,
Jesus Christ.
He's not going to watch it.
You don't know.
And I found
Fuck's
that
sakes,
that's
man.
actually one thing I don't like about the 2014 ones. They made it seem like he was in a lot more of the movie than he was. Like, the trailers make it seem like, oh yeah, it's starring Bryan Cranston. He's in 15 minutes of the 2-hour movie.
Well, then I don't want to watch it.
Yeah, but he's in two different parts of the movie.
It airs on Wednesday, June 5th at 5:30 on TNT, probably right before basketball.
There we go.
Game.
There's enough time for you to get like satellite for like a week.
I thought TNT just showed basketball games, to be honest with you. I've never heard them referenced in any other context. Just
TNT played The Wire.
Basketball games and playoff baseball. But not playoff baseball I want to watch.
And Burn Notice.
Harris watches Burn Notice.
Harris watches Burn Notice.
Nothing like a good Aziz Ansari joke to completely derail the...
Which doesn't happen very often.
Not around here, it doesn't.
Not much, no. But yeah, so my question was going to be for everybody, how many of them have we all seen?
Well,
obviously
I've already
Craig's
answered
at
my
0,
question.
yeah. So Andrew, how many of them have you seen, or do you think?
I've seen like bits and pieces. Like I've never sat through a full one of like the older like
The Japanese ones?
I was gonna say shitty, but yeah, the Japanese ones. Back before the budgets got decent. Like I've seen quite a few of the animated things on Netflix.
Okay, yeah.
Where it's like post-apocalyptic and Godzilla's kind of like the bane of everyone's existence. Like I've seen a few of those,
Okay.
but really it's just the ones that have existed in our lifetime that I'm deeply into.
As they're called on the Wikipedia, the Hollywood
Like the
adaptation.
kaiju.
The yeah, no, those are definitely the ones I've mainly seen. I maybe have seen like one or two of the originals when I was younger. Like I have vague recollections of them. Like you said,
I don't know what I probably just did, but Scott just disappeared
Yeah,
from the
he's
face
gone.
of the universe. I'm going to pick up.
He's back.
There we go. You disappeared for a minute. I was about to just keep the ball rolling. Okay, let's recap. What did you say? Because we didn't hear it. Let's let our listeners listen again.
Instant replay on the Forgot to Grow Up podcast.
okay. Well, I was just saying how I was.
Well, if you see right here.
I was just saying how I was similar to you, Andrew. I'd only mainly seen the ones that come out in our lifetime, and maybe like glimpses and bits of a few of the original Japanese and older ones. I haven't seen the Netflix animated ones yet, but I have seen, like I said, the Hollywood adaptation ones, and I like
The bigger budget ones.
yeah, exactly. And the '90s one I liked at the time. And looking back, I think you had a rant about this, about how it's not as great as our childhood remembers it to be. It's the nicest way to put it. And it doesn't really, from what I've gathered from doing a little actually of this research, is that it's not even actually officially a Godzilla anymore. It's technically just Zilla, because the original, so the company, the Japanese company that owns it, the original creator, he did not like what they did with the Broderick one, right? And that's because they'd actually given them notes and they just ignored a bunch of the notes that like the company that they had bought, like paid for the license for. So yeah, once they that expired, the original company was like, yeah, we're just gonna turn that and pretend it's not the actual Godzilla, it's just a Zilla. So me and you have only seen one Godzilla movie, is what I was trying to get at with that.
I stand by it. I like what I've seen.
No, I agree. I like the 2014 one. Like I said, I was a little disappointed with not getting as much Bryan Cranston, but that was just...
See, I didn't mind that because I'm not a massive fan of him.
Well, it was my own expectation, which I'll be
fair.
one to say, like, that's not a reason to judge against a movie. It's just, that was one thing from the marketing, at least I thought he seemed a little bit more like he'd be a little more in it, but the fact that it focuses...
Oh,
go ahead.
Oh, no, you keep going.
The fact that it focuses around his kid kind of makes sense, and it's a little bit more interesting. It does seem a little bit, coincidental that Godzilla and him are on the exact same, like, beeline. But, because he travels across...
Yeah, see, I found for that Godzilla in particular, there was almost too much human shit going on.
Oh, way too much. Like, the fact that, like,
and there wasn't even really that much. It was like, let him do his thing, let this go on over here, and then we'll have some humans just kind of guiding you along to attach you to it. And it was a little bit too much.
Yeah, I could have used a lot more Godzilla in that Godzilla movie, but I think they're definitely going to be ramping it up with this upcoming one, King of the Monsters. Seems like it's definitely going to be a little bit more heavy on the Godzilla
Monsters,
and lighter on the humans, which is, I think, where the Hollywood adaptations have gone wrong so far, and why there isn't as many Hollywood ones as there are of the Japanese ones, because there's 32.
Yeah, there's a shit ton.
I did not realize there were so many. I thought I was behind by maybe 10 of them, maybe 15. But 32, spanning from the 60s all the way up to like last year, they still had some coming out.
Is Godzilla James Bond, or?
Well, he's almost. Well,
Godzilla versus James Bond would be the worst movie I'd pay to see 14 times.
he is one of those franchises that lasts forever in the same sense as Bond, but he isn't
been going the same amount of time, got about the same number of movies.
Well, I think with Godzilla, you have the
variety.
benefit of the doubt, being able just to say, Godzilla versus whatever. Is it a monster? Cool, let's make it happen.
Godzilla
Is it something
versus
big?
climate
Sure.
change.
Mecha Godzilla? Fuck, why not?
There are a lot. Like, I can't, like...
Godzilla versus the Kraken? I'd want to see that shit.
Godzilla
Why not?
Space
versus
Godzilla.
traffic.
Godzilla versus Traffic. Well, that one's basically every Godzilla movie. Just like
He
Godzilla
always
versus
wins.
Skyscrapers.
Yeah, and he always wins these ones.
Godzilla versus Urban Development.
Which is why I guess I like them so much, is I do love watching a little bit of the destruction of us, and the fact that there is this, like, because in a way, we're a Godzilla to, like, insects and stuff like that, and certain animal life, and so it's kind of interesting to see that, like, okay, it is possible that there could be, not really, but, in this alternate kind of thing, to see these big monsters come and just treat us as like, we're just the, ants getting squished under the, trampling, what's it called? Elephants, as it were. I think that's the expression.
See, I think the beginning of my Godzilla appreciation starts with and ends with Power Rangers. Because he's just a giant thing destroying a city. And what did the Power Rangers always fight?
Giant thing destroying
A
city.
giant thing destroying a city. So I think that's why I started to appreciate it. Same with the Pacific Rim movies. Went into them wanting to just be like, this is bullshit. Why are you doing this? And then my inner child was like, fucking Megazords. That's why.
Mega fucking
God damn
Zords.
it. I get it. Motherfucking Megazords. I'm in. I'm all in.
Yeah, and that's kind of, I think that's, I have to agree on that same thing. It brings out the child in me of just like, I used to play with freaking dinosaurs and smash freaking the Batman, the Bat
Who
Cave.
wouldn't be into that?
Yeah.
Other than like the over-the-top ones who think dinosaurs didn't exist and they're a hoax based off the government. But
They're not,
get your head out of your ass, Craig, okay? And the Earth isn't flat.
isn't it?
No.
Looks
But
flat.
there is a giant island that King Kong exists on, and I'm
Obviously.
also down to fuck with that shit. Okay? King Kong movies get me so pumped up. Godzilla gets me so pumped up. And I will cream in my pants when they finally give me even just the shittiest trailer, the teaser trailer for Godzilla versus King
Yeah,
Kong.
I can't wait for that either. That's what this is leading up to with this next King Kong that's coming up, King of the Monsters, and then that's leading up to the versus King Kong, and I'm like, yes, I just want to see it. I know one
My
exists.
downside of that, though, is like I'm so on board with both of them. I'm like, I want the both to win.
Well, this is the Batman v Superman conundrum, which is obviously
you guys just team?
That's what's gonna happen. They're gonna fight.
Can you guys just team up?
Well, they're gonna fight first and then team up, which is the classic. When you have two heroes and you want to fight each other, you have them disagree about something, but then you have a bigger bad that they're like, okay, we have to go address that instead. Our thing was stupid.
If I don't see King Kong like kind of ride Godzilla and then like jump off his back to like body check something, I will stand up in the theater and just yell aggressively.
Yeah, I'll throw a tantrum.
Yeah, I will straight up whip Kendall's popcorn at somebody. I'm not throwing my popcorn. I needed my snacks.
Yeah.
But
Where else are you going to get the energy to throw the popcorn?
that's it. Damn it.
The 0-calorie popcorn. Oh, you got that butter.
There's carbs in popcorn, thank you.
Is there? I thought that was one of those smart snacks.
Tons of energy in carbs.
You think I'm taking Smart Pop to the movie theater? Fuck no. You
No,
need that. You need that kettle
no,
pop
I
shit.
I just meant in general. I thought it was supposed to be a healthier snack, except for when you load it with butter.
Healthier,
It's-
but it's better than chocolate.
It's just corn.
That's a fair point, Craig. That's a fair point.
Maize.
I didn't expect to talk about popcorn. Anyways, Godzilla movies.
Yeah, longer than we actually talked about Godzilla.
Apparently,
Jesus. Are you not pumped up now, Craig? Come on.
No.
Does,
What? What if I told you Peter Jackson directed the 2005 King Kong?
That's still not going to help. If you told me...
What if I told you
Peter
that Adrian
Jackson-
Brody is an ugly son of a bitch?
Well, I'd probably,
Does that help?
I'd probably agree with you if I knew who Adrian Brody was.
He's got big ass nose.
Oh.
Kind of looks like a beak,
Mm.
and he's just. I feel like he's just a big piece of shit. But I digress.
A little bit, eh?
a little bit.
That's not a digression.
More of a aggression.
That is fair.
So yeah, is that all our Godzilla thoughts then?
I think so.
I
Like,
got
I'm
nothing
just. I don't
else
even know
to
what to
add.
say.
It is tough.
Go
It
see
is
it.
tough with us not having seen a great deal of the 32 of them.
There's so many.
Yeah, and that's partly off-putting to me as well, because I know there's a lot of them on Amazon Prime, and I've been meaning to get to try to check out some of them, but it's also like,
There's not enough time in the day.
exactly, or the week, or the month.
Or ever.
Yeah, so it's, Yeah, I was kind of expecting this to be a little bit of a shorter one, but I did want us to take advantage of that SEO with,
Gotta.
it being out, the new one coming out
Gotta
this
jump
weekend.
on
So
it.
take a little advantage of that. But anyways, what'd you guys
Gotta
watch this
take
week?
advantage. Oh wow, that was
Just immediate segues.
This is definitely
The
the
rec-
WWWtW episode featuring
I
Godzilla.
was gonna say this is got to be the fastest we've made it to W. Tom Cruise was faster. Was longer than this.
Yeah, but that one also had a lot more like tangents. This one was pretty straightforward.
Well, if we take out the fact that we said, yeah, it's a good movie, I'm not sure that it would have been a longer period than this one.
Pretty much
Yeah,
all
we-
we did was go through Tom Cruise's IMDb page and go,
Exactly.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
I forgot about
yeah,
that
I
one.
like that.
I
I
didn't
like
see that one.
He doesn't look as short in that one.
Hence why we haven't done another actor one. Well, since the second one we did after that, I think.
We did Tim
Yeah,
Allen.
what did we do? We did a Robin Williams one after that, did we not?
We've done a Tim Allen episode.
We've
too.
done Tim Allen.
No, that's what it
and
was. It
then-
was Tim Allen, and we've done a Schwarzenegger one.
Right.
We haven't done a Robin
I
Williams
don't think we've
one.
done the
We should do
Schwarzenegger
that at
one
some
yet,
point.
actually.
We did like action movies and stuff.
Yeah.
Close to the same
That's
thing.
close. It's so close, yeah.
Anyway, what we watched this week? Who wants to go first? Anybody? Anybody chomping?
You know
at
what?
the bit here?
I'll bite the bullet. I'll jump on.
All right.
My list is surprisingly long, considering I watched Sweet Fuck All. I thought. I will start with my comedy specials.
All right.
I watched Tom Segura's Disgraceful
Oh, I
Good choice.
watched that on the weekend as well.
Good.
while driving, so
choice.
listening to it. And still funny. Tom Segura's delivery is still one of the best out there
Oh, for sure.
because it's just a dude talking at you. Not a massive fan of the podcast, but
It,
big fan of.
I've gotten more
of
into his
comedy.
podcast lately. I can definitely understand why you might not be into it certain times. I'm like, do we need to talk about poop and farts so much? Like,
There's a lot of comedians who I fucking love, who the podcast they're on or podcast they're featured on, I'm just like, what the fuck is going on? Like Chris
That's
D'Elia's
100%.
congratulations.
I listened to the
Yeah, it's
first
one of
like
the-
20,
one of the
25
worst.
episodes.
Yeah, one of the worst podcasts I've ever listened to.
yeah, I don't get those. Like, I like the ones that like are doing different interviews and stuff. But ones that are just like, yeah, I'm gonna just do random
If it's
stuff.
not Michael Rosenbaum at this point, I got no use for it.
I can see for the first little bit, I could listen to Chris D'Elia talk about random shit. But then the problem is that he
He does it so
just
much.
started to do the same thing over and over again.
Well,
And
'cause
it
He does
it
a
went
daily
from-
one, right?
no, I don't think it's quite daily. I think it's weekly.
Okay. All right.
He might have ramped it up, but he's part of my issue with it was like the first 20 episodes is great because all he does is talk at the microphone and he just rants about stuff and it's entertaining. But then he started to develop a bit of a cult following around some of the stuff that he'd said, and then it just became where his podcast was mostly audience interaction.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
I didn't
see, my
like
thing
that.
with Chris D'Elia is I really like his stand-up, or liked his stand-up. I think he's gotten a little tired for me. But I think he's a guy who's funny because he, like, writes it down and he works on it, and, like, he perfects the jokes. Because the more I see of him, like, off the stage, you know, following him on Twitter,
Yeah.
following on Instagram, following people who are friends with him, like Brian Callen,
That's
that sort of stuff.
that joke he messed
Like-
up on the weekend on Instagram. It's just like,
Yeah, where he's like trying to tell a joke. And he's like, "What about
what about
Acuras?"
And not that I could do better, but it was a little bit like, oh, but
You're also not a professional.
that's what I was
stand-up
thinking too. It's like
comedian.
it's not my job. I'm not like, but in his defense, it is I think a little bit this problem we all have, which is so much content, and he's just trying to create so much that he's running dry on material. I think like when you're trying
Like,
when you do like even a podcast every week. It's like we start to run out of stuff to talk about. We could only talk about Godzilla for 15 minutes, for God's sakes.
We use the excuse of not seeing that much. For
Yeah,
that,
it wasn't a
okay?
great pick for
We
a
are
topic.
riding that into the fucking grave.
But it's very us too. But you know what I mean? Like I always have a little bit of like respect for the ones, especially the ones that are cranking out so much. And it's like
Like Michael Rosenbaum.
yeah, and I agree. Like
Props, Mike.
I agree that
Rosie.
he's the type that I think is used to mainly just being like very meticulous and working on a joke. And the more he's putting himself on like different podcasts and putting himself on social media more, you're seeing him working on the stuff, I think, a little bit more. And that's that's where it's a little bit like, oh, okay, I get it. Like we have to obviously respect that they're trying to make these bits sometimes, or they're just trying to work whatever. But it's also like, do we need to see everything though? Like, like it is.
I like for a lot of the comedians I appreciate and I like the most, like the way I see them off stage in things, doing interviews or being, on podcasts and stuff like that. Like they seem to be either in character all the time or it's just on stage is who they are.
Yeah.
Like John Mulaney acts the same way on stage as he is in everything I've seen him in.
Yes.
Jim Gaffigan, same way. Like the Theo Von, for God's sakes, same way. Just dumb smart. Like knows some shit, but you're like, God, you sound so fucking dumb, Theo. What? God damn it.
The accent.
Tom Segura is the same way, where you're like, cool. Like I feel like he's just a dick, but funny at the same
always
time,
that way,
right across the board.
Yeah.
Whereas when I listen to Chris D'Elia, I'm like, are you on or are you just this way?
Yeah, I agree.
Are you just like kind of an arrogant ass who tells some jokes the whole time, or are you like actually a nice guy sometimes?
Yeah, it's tough because we only see what he's projecting out. So it's like, are you always
Like,
on, or are we actually catching genuine bits?
Sometimes I feel like he's the male version of Chelsea Handler. I said sometimes.
Oh, I love it because that doesn't affect me as much as it is to you. Like, this isn't as meaningful to me as it is to you two, but I get it still.
You don't say that name on this podcast.
She's the
And
worst.
it's practically blasphemy to compare Chris D'Elia and Chelsea Handler together.
I said sometimes.
Still.
Like, moving
She
on to
is
my next
all
thing
the
that I
time
listened to
Chelsea
this week.
Handler.
Can you imagine? Like, the only thing that might be even, like, similar, and it's not even, like, every day of the week, would be, like, being Amy Schumer.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, my God.
Wasn't that a TV show?
I think
No, it was
so.
Inside Amy Schumer.
Ugh, I don't want to be inside her.
No, only one person does.
Ugh.
Two people.
Luckily. Her baby and her husband?
Yes. I'm sure there are other people too, but those are the only ones that...
I'm sure there was a lot of people,
Yeah.
but
Well, you could argue the baby was trying to get out.
that's true.
Technically speaking.
And he got out with a weird name.
Well, that's all celebrities. We can't
You-
just hate on her for that.
Yeah, it's true.
You know more about Amy Schumer's kid than I do.
I didn't even know she had a kid either.
I knew she had a kid. I did not know the gender.
You know
nor
what?
the name.
I want to blame it on Kendall, but I don't even think I can. I think it's just I genuinely know some stuff.
You found this out just by existing?
Yeah, I think like I want to blame it on her so bad because I feel like some of it came from her, but at the same time, like I don't think it.
I
all
haven't
did,
You're taking
so
a
I
little
can't
personal
blame it on her.
responsibility. I appreciate that.
I haven't been consciously avoiding it, and I still haven't managed to come across it.
Avoid it as long as you can,
Yeah.
man. Just like I wish I could have avoided going back and listening to Chris D'Elia's Man on Fire. I laughed like twice, and the rest of the time I gave it like an adult.
Man on Fire is not as good
Incorrigible is
as
hilarious.
Incorrigible. And I've always thought that Man on Fire wasn't as good as Incorrigible.
It starts off okay. Man on Fire, like outside of his like 30 seconds talking about how people are piggy fat fucks,
I-
felt like that was over the top. I do enjoy the bit where he's talking about going to Dallas
That's the
to visit his
best part of the
girlfriends.
entire joke. Of the
He told her
the
to pack
entire
one
special.
bag, and you brought one bag, but somehow you're carrying 3. That's relatable.
It's very relatable.
For every man out there.
So good.
Even men who don't have wives, even men who have husbands. It's relatable because it fucking happens. People bring too much shit on trips.
Always.
But outside of that bit, like, there was very few parts where I genuinely was like, that's good. That's good.
Yeah, it's not one of those ones I ever... I don't revisit his stuff, really, like Chris D'Elia.
It's not like John Mulaney where I could listen to all of his specials and then Harry Potter that shit by going
Tom
back and
Segura
listening
for
to
me,
it again.
like that same with Tom Segura for me. I've watched Disgraceful at least 5 times since it's come out.
Yeah. Quit snitching, motherfucker. Like, just, like some comedian, like Theo Von, like, I can go back and listen to his shit over and over again because it's genuinely funny.
Every time I use
That-
my new
that-
toaster.
Step over that new toaster. Nice. because that bit is just hilarious. You know, people should stop shooting up schools and shoot up a fucking Denny's, okay? Like, he's just something about him. He's dumb smart, and it blows my mind. Or another one is Christian Finnegan, because like I love him. He's just so chill, but he's so fucking funny. What else did I do? Speaking of chill but funny, I watched that new Lonely Islands like long short thing.
Yeah, the 30-minute. It was called like
Bash
It was
Brothers.
a visual poem.
or a visual.
Yeah.
I thought it was a visual album, but
No, visual poem.
Okay.
It's just a really good ploy to get you to watch all their music videos for their new album that they put out.
that makes sense.
It was
That's
weird.
what they've
It
done
was
a lot
super
of that.
weird.
Like every time like one of their movies comes out, it's usually attached to some kind of lonely elf, or like vice versa.
But
Yeah.
at least Popstar was longer and
Well, that's an actual movie.
Popstar
yeah.
was a fantastic
had more stuff
movie.
going on.
This was just, it was
It was
strange.
hilarious.
There were bits where I thought it was too much.
Really?
That's why I didn't watch it.
Yeah.
I was like, this looks like it's gonna be too much.
I didn't think any of it was too much.
I think the best parts I saw I had already seen like on Instagram.
Oh, see, I never got a sneak peek at it. I thought the trailer did not do it justice, though. Like the Netflix trailer, which was just the silk robes and kimonos bit. Yeah, which arguably was not the best thing in the entire thing.
Starts off pretty strong. My name is Mark.
Jose.
Mark.
That was
Like
that was a good start.
It started off good, and then it just hit a point, like a diminutive return, where I was just like,
And then they had Joe Montana in the credits,
if it's not Joe Theismann, I don't give a shit about
but
it.
it
Okay,
was so funny.
bring in the good Joe.
Joe Montana, it was
Joe
it was
Latruglio
fantastic.
or Joe Theismann. That is it. And considering Andy Samberg had that one interaction with Joe Theismann, you would have thought they could have got it.
I actually talked about that this week.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, I know.
Manifest it. Oh, my other leg.
My other leg.
Hilarious. So I watched that. What else did I watch? Oh, I went to the drive-in on Saturday evening because it
Damn.
got real gorgeous out. And the combination of movies was John Wick 3 and Long Shot, or it was Aladdin and Endgame.
Oh,
What? Did you want to spend 5 hours watching 2 movies?
No, I did not. So that's why I watched
I was gonna
John
say
Wick
that
3 and Long
sounds
Shot.
terrible.
Endgame killed it for me right off the hop.
Yeah, well, that
But
would be.
we watched John Wick 3 and like maybe half of Long Shot
Yeah.
because it got real foggy and you couldn't see
I
shit.
can't remember. I can't even remember what Long Shot's about.
That's the Seth Rogen
comedy. Yeah.
and Charlize Most Beautiful Woman on Earth Theron movie where she's the Secretary of State
Right.
and he's a newspaper writer, all about releasing the truth, who becomes her like speechwriter.
Yeah. That
It wasn't that great.
Okay.
Charlize Theron was the best part of it because she's a babe. Actually, you know what? She's the second best part of it. The best part of it is how they introduce them to each other, even though they have like kind of a weird past. They introduce them back to each other at a Boys to Men concert, like a private showing of Boys to Men, which I was so on board with because I
course.
love me some Boys to
Yes.
Men. I actually sang a song before the podcast, for those of you who were very curious.
everybody wanted to know.
Talking about BBM shutting down, so I sang some funeral BBM, Boys to Men, BTM. It was very sad, but that movie was very like what I saw of it, mediocre as hell, and yeah, kind of glad I didn't see the ending. Although it had what's his name? I can picture him. He's bald. He played Artillery Arthur. He was Bob Odenkirk. That's who I'm thinking of.
Yes.
He plays the president of the United States, who's kind of this like
That's kinda hilarious.
weird guy who was on a TV drama who wanted to transition from being a TV actor to being president to being a movie actor. And I was like, is this supposed to be some weird like stupid president ploy off Trump? Is that what they're
Yeah, it
kind of
sounds
going
like a
for
bag
here?
Not a
Nah,
commentary.
they're making fun of Reagan.
That makes sense too.
In post,
It was a joke. I don't know.
yeah.
It was probably supposed to be poked at Trump, but maybe it's the two.
I don't know. It was a weird movie. It had Ice Cube's kid in it, though, as, like, Seth Rogen's best friend. And he got kind of chubby and super chill. So watch the movie when it inevitably ends up on Netflix or Crave, but don't rush out to see it.
Yeah, I wasn't planning on it.
Yeah. But you know what was even worse than that was John Wick 3.
You didn't like it.
That movie sucked.
I saw this coming. I didn't see this coming after I saw it. I knew you weren't going to like it.
No wonder
Going
you went
into
home.
it, I was pumped because I loved the first one. It was so good, and I love those movies where it's like one guy versus everything, like The Equalizer, like all those things. And then the second one, I was like, fuck yes, take it down even more. And then they set this one up to be just this beautiful, poetic ending. And then they're like, suck my dick, we're making a fourth one. And the whole time I was like,
Yeah, that's why I
Oh
knew
my
you weren't going
God.
to be happy with this. I was like, yeah.
oh, why are they making a fourth one?
Endgame
They had
ended
the
it too
opportunity-
much. This one didn't end it enough.
Like, they could have just left it after 2 and kind of left you with that, did he survive? Didn't
I
he?
agree
Who
with that.
knows? He's John fucking Wick. And then with number 3, if they were going to end it, they had the opportunity for it to be like him trying to be taken down, and he has the opportunity to maybe go and kill the whole high table, take them all out, and then like maybe take down, the Continental or something. Like maybe die at the end so that way there's no organized crime and he took it all out himself. Like they had an opportunity to put a nice beautiful rose on it and then bury it in the ground. And then they're like,
Spoiler.
nah, fuck that. Let's kill some people and then create more conflict and then just destroy relationships. And that's exactly what happened. Don't even tell me
No,
that
I
isn't
wasn't going
what
to say
happened.
that's not what happened. It's it's a little...
Plot for plot, that's what
It's
happened. The best part of this movie was Halle Berry, and it's not for the reason you think. It's because she shows up and she's got 2 badass dogs, and she's a little bit of a hot tamale, and she goes nuts, kills some motherfuckers, and the dogs body check people.
Yeah, the dogs were awesome.
There's like 17 minutes of her in the movie, and that is the best part.
No, I agree. I really enjoyed the parts. I liked the movie, so for me, it's like, no, I just enjoyed it all. I agree that it was a little bit like they could have ended it with 3.
He cuts his goddamn finger off, and then they barely reference it.
What are you going to say
Hey,
about it after that, though?
you need to prove to us that you want to be one of us. Okay, cool. You can either break your hand or you can cut your fingers off. So he's like, boom, cut the finger off, and then they just never fucking talk about it again. They just leave a really giant opening between where his fingers should
Well, that
be.
editing's a tough one to get in there because they obviously just put a little green screen wrap around his finger, and then some poor visual artist had to go and just erase
He
that out.
barely used a gun after that. They could have casted his hand with like a brass knuckle in it, with a knife attached to
Yeah.
it. Like they had the opportunity to do more than they did. I was very disappointed. Kendall went to sleep for the last half an hour. She straight up just shut it down. She said, "Wake me up when we're done," and she went to bed. And I kind of envy her.
Oh, that's great. That's hilarious.
I mean, part of me's like, woman, this is 2 movies you fell asleep on this year. Like, is it me? Like, am I part of the problem? I don't know. But I kind of envy her because she just shut it down. She's like, this movie fucking sucks. I'm going to sleep.
And you stayed awake and watched it.
I should have gone to sleep.
You sadist. Or
At the
something.
very least, I should have read, like, a book or something.
Yeah.
So I got 3 things left on my list.
All right.
All of which I will be more cheerful
Oh,
for.
okay.
I don't know.
Okay, so one of
recently
them
you've just
is I'm almost done the Mindy project. I'm almost done it. I'm committed at this point. It has taken a kind of downhill turn. It hit its point of, of just not even being able to go any higher. It plateaued, and it's kind of on its way down. Kind of like, did you guys watch Park and Rec?
most of it.
You know how in the last season they're like, oh yeah,
No.
Leslie's pregnant, and then she gives birth to triplets, and then the last season you just never see the kids.
I
They run around like twice, and you're like, oh, okay.
did not watch the last season. So.
Okay, so Mindy and her boyfriend a couple seasons ago, or her fiance, they had a kid.
Mm-hmm.
And the kid's supposed to be like 3 at this point in the final season. And the kid's like 5. Like, he is a giant kid who talks fully, who sits at a table and looks way bigger than a 3-year-old. And you're just like, what's going on? This is piss poor casting. And then just they bring him up like twice. She's always like, I'm a single mom. And then you just don't see the kid. And you're like, what's going on here? But Ike Barinholtz is spectacular.
Yes, he is.
And they have, what's his name? It's going to bug me. It's the super cool cop from Brooklyn Nine-Nine that wants to ask Amy out, but Jake's like, whoa, bro. It's going to bug me. It's like a super cool name, too. I got to go find this shit out.
It's Jack Donger.
No, because it's not based off
Not,
our names. It's not based off of
it's not Dutch for
the Dutch word
prudence
for
in financial matters.
That's it. Okay, this is gonna bug me. Like, it's kind of a cool name. Motherfucker. Okay, here we go. Anyways, while I'm looking this up, I will bounce over to the fact that I'm watching Smallville still.
Yeah, you are.
I'm only like a third of the way through that show, thank God. That show keeps getting so bad, but so good.
Yeah, it does have its ups and downs. But in their defense, they make so many episodes.
Yeah. Like, I love that everything is just, like, the most ridiculous cover-up. Like, oh, my God, they just happen to have kryptonite, or,
There's
Clark's
kryptonite
doing this.
frickin'
It's cool.
everywhere.
His biological father's going to give his adopted father some powers. Or, oh, Lana exists? Fuck. Like, everything is just, like, this weird turn. Like, oh, man, like, Clark can't see, so this whole episode's going to be about him having to hone his ears. Okay, kind of makes sense. But also, why does something always have to happen? Or why, when he needs a power, he can't use it because something else happened? Like,
Because it's a soap opera. That's how you create
That's
drama
fair.
with superheroes, is you fuck with their
superhero
powers.
soap opera. Right now, I think I'm on season 4. It might be season 3. But we're at a point where they're kind of experimenting with, and they keep referencing the Lazarus, so it's like the Lazarus pit type thing.
Okay.
But they keep referencing it like the Lazarus serum, because it brought back that Adam, I think his name is, the super crazy dude who lives above the Talon, who Lana's into, and then you find out he's crazy.
Isn't
and
it
then
Jensen
she's just,
Ackles?
No, he's the football coach.
Yeah, right. Is it the Vampire Diaries dude?
I think so. He looks very familiar.
Okay, yeah, I think it's Vampire
He's
Diaries,
a weird
dude.
character.
One of the many CW actors is what he was.
Dave Majors was the guy's name on
That is
Brooklyn Nine-Nine, the
is a
guy who
cool
was on
name.
Mindy Project. I'm also finding out that he was on Burn Notice.
Harris watches.
And who watches Burn Notice?
Harris watches.
Harris watches Burn Notice. Anyways, back to Smallville. Chloe and Clark had a little bit of falling out because Clark found out that she was at one point working with Lionel Luthor,
Yeah.
investigating Clark, and then she's like, "No, he's my best friend, and I love him." And then Clark was like, "Bitch," and he was kind of pissed. But he never uses his powers to kill her because I would snap a bitch's neck. But moving on, I also watched the episode recently where fucking Pete, he's such a fuck up. Where he gets into like the street racing.
Yeah, I hate that.
And
episode.
then he gets told he has to lose, and he's like, I'm not going to lose, I'm the best. And he screws that guy out of $20,000
Yeah.
because he's dumb enough to think that he can fuck with a bookie.
Yeah, that's why I hate that episode, because I'm like, none of this is realistic at all in any kind
Well,
of
then
sort
Pete
of sense.
comes up and he's like, Clark, you got to help me. And he's like, what the fuck do you want me to do? I don't have $20,000. My family's poor and we barely own a farm. And he's like, well, use your powers. Like, you did it before. And he's like, I was on red kryptonite, motherfucker.
Yeah.
And then at the end, Pete gets kind of indignant because he shows up to, like, kiss Clark's ass while Clark's, like, shooting hoops. And Clark's like, I'm going inside. And he just, he accepts the apology, but he's kind of like, I need space.
Yeah.
And goes inside, and Pete is a whiny little bitch about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can't wait to get rid of him. I'm not looking forward to when he comes back and gets, like, his weird stretchy powers from eating, like, New 5 gum or Stride or whatever the fuck it was.
I forgot about that. Yeah. Yeah, I didn't really love that. Like,
Which I
liked
just realized, like, gum is stretchy.
Yeah.
So, like, Oh, what a
His kryptonite gum.
corny fucking way to give someone their powers.
Man, the whole first season is, kryptonite plus bugs, kryptonite plus water, kryptonite plus fire.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
I
You're
love
exposed to
it.
it. You can split yourself in half. Oh, we're running out of shit to do
were
already for
looking in
Lex.
the
Let's
mirror?
make
Yeah,
him let's make him crazy for half a season. Oh, this chick is super hot, and Clark and her fall out of an elevator. Let's make her teleport, and then she goes crazy.
Oh, I love that actress.
Yeah, she was hot. Clark almost lost his virginity in that one. That would have been tight. Speaking of tight, I've also watched a couple more episodes of Lucifer.
Okay.
Still not a feel-good show.
Not at all.
Because everyone on there is gorgeous.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's Hollywood.
But it's still just compelling enough of a show. I really like it, but it's not something I could binge watch.
That's fair. I find that hard with like procedural type ones. It's like I'm never gonna
Yeah.
binge watch like a CSI or an NCIS.
Yeah. Like it's just one where like they're kind of tied in together, but also loosely dismembered.
Loose, yeah. It's
Although
it's a
I
show
can't
that's
remember if I said it last week on the podcast or if I said it to Kendall, but I like that they kind of make like this god character like racially ambiguous because they're like, here's the super pasty British white guy, and then they're like, here's this gorgeous American black man as his brother. Like I kind of like that because it's just like cool.
I
Like,
didn't even
we're
know
all
God
God's
was in it.
children. What'd you say?
I didn't even know God was in Lucifer.
You don't see him. They just
Okay.
like just the fact that his nut busting can just create whatever colored person he wants.
Oh, okay, that's what you meant by that. All right, gotcha.
Yeah,
I
that's
thought
what
you meant
meant.
that like they
all of
showed
God's
him.
children.
Okay.
No, but I'm psyched to see Tom Welling, who plays Kane,
Yeah,
pumped as fuck.
that's the main thing that's gonna get me to start watching that soon.
Yep. But that's it. That's all I've watched.
Right on. Craig, do you want me
This
to go
week.
next so that you can go last
I
to
don't-
stay true to what you said at the beginning?
I don't care. It doesn't matter to me either way. I can go first if you want.
Well, you haven't talked very much. Me and Andrew were going off for about that for a while, so why don't you go ahead?
So this week, actually, right before the podcast, I watched that the unauthorized Bash Brothers experience, and liked it a lot. I'll
So weird.
probably
dude.
watch it again. I don't know, but I like that kind of stuff most of the time.
Fair.
Who are you? Man?
I don't know anymore. So I watched that, and I watched some Trailer Park Boys because obviously.
Ugh.
Who
Who are you? It's like I don't even know you.
Oh, it's gonna get better, man. It's gonna get better. Well, Sam and I finished watching Dragon's Den. We got to the end of what's on Netflix, so naturally we've made the switch to Shark Tank.
Yep,
Which
that's the
I-
natural transition.
Don't like
Yep.
as
It's-
much as I like Dragon's Den. I don't like that they like to spend a lot of time, like they do some background on at least one of the.
Way too much background sometimes.
Yeah, they do
It's
a
like-
whole like, oh, this is our life, and it's like wonderful. I don't.
This isn't The Voice, man. I don't need to know that you came from a broken family.
It
Jesus.
feels like every other competition show, really. Is
That's-
what it
yeah,
comes
that's a-
down to. Is like
Yep.
they pick one, they do an in depth on them, and it's like, yeah, great. Now come out and pitch. But then what I don't like.
That's like the second worst part of reality TV. Is there's
Yeah.
a fucking formula
I
for
do
it.
not care about these people's lives.
It's
Like, none of them.
particularly. It seems like it's
I barely even
particularly
care about
American.
your guys' lives. I'm kidding. That's not true. But still.
So that's one thing that I don't like about it is that they like to do a lot of in depth on some of the people, and generally their stories are completely uninteresting. Another thing I don't like is that, and it might just be the producer because it's a different producer, obviously, but the show is very aggressive.
Oh yeah.
Like
Yeah.
they, the sharks, the panel rip each other apart, and there's very little like good interactions between them.
Oh no, this is
It's not it's not like a legitimate sit down where it's like
Yeah.
logic takes over.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's,
no.
All emotion.
It's all ramped up. Yeah.
and they, it seems like they adjusted the rules a little because, well, first of all, like you don't always know what they're looking for, the person who's pitching, until like towards the end when they're starting to negotiate, and then they come on the screen with like they're looking for this, and it's like, man, you could have led with that, and then I could have come up with my own valuation and play along, which is what I like about Dragon's Den, is that I can play
Yeah.
along with it and be like, okay, well, they're probably going to do this, and then they do something ridiculous, and you're like, wow, this is why I watch the show.
Yeah.
and also why I don't have millions of dollars.
Yeah, Shark's Tank definitely is a little too like Hollywood and
It's and like,
commercial.
there's so much more that goes into the pitches. Like everybody's got their displays all put together.
I hate
and all
that
this stuff.
to it.
And compared to Dragon's Den, where someone can wander in and they've got like a plastic.
Just
What's
their
going
product.
on in here?
They've got a 3D plastic mock-up of their product, and they've sold like 400,000 of them that they've been 3D printing in their mother's basement. Because they don't have the space in their 1-bedroom apartment for a 3D printer, and they wander in with their thing, and they've got their pitch, and they do it all, and they mess it up and stuff like that. Like that's what I like about Dragon's Den.
Yeah, no, I don't want to see actual businesses sending their like to do business proposals.
It just
to
feels
rich
like an
people.
advertisement.
Oh, it is. That's 100% all like Shark's Tank is, and it's
So you
it
can say
gets
like
worse.
as seen on Shark Tank.
Pardon?
So they can say as seen on Shark Tank.
Exactly. It's
Exactly.
the new
Where-
as seen on TV.
Dragon's Den might be that, but it doesn't feel like it all the time. It does sometimes, but it doesn't feel like
can,
it.
yeah.
It doesn't feel like it all the time. Then the panel is generally a little more friendly, because on Shark Tank they're just not.
Oh no, they're really aggressive with each other.
They're,
And it's just
it's cutthroat out there.
yeah.
And then I just don't like that they like the people come on and they and like they negotiate back and forth, and what would have had like on Dragon's Den they don't accept that garbage. Like
Yeah.
if you come back with a low ball or you wait too long, they're like, "Well, sucks to be you. You should have you should have moved on that because we've got 10 people to fit into this episode." And on Shark Tank, they like sit there and listen to them. It just feels so planned, scripted. That's the word I was looking for. I was gonna say choreographed, but that doesn't make much sense. It's not much of a
No,
dance.
you're definitely right. This is definitely a lot more like, okay, this isn't like,
More gut
Next, come in,
feeling
yeah.
rather than orchestrated.
oh yeah, this is all just like they probably have it planned who's winning the thing already.
Yeah,
Like it would not surprise me if they already set up all these deals beforehand.
Yeah, if
and
someone's
they
like, I
play
want
it
that. Do you
into-
want that?
That's see, I got that impression too, because Kevin O'Leary said at one point, "Yeah, I was looking at your business like beforehand," and it's like,
Oh, yeah,
well,
exactly. It's like-
that means you knew before he came in to pitch, and I don't
Oh,
like
yeah,
that
they're-
garbage. I would rather
They're
them.
picking out of like like portfolios of like companies
Yeah.
like getting sent to them because that's like you can tell, especially on like Shark's Tank. Like I could at least tell it's like no, these businesses are not the same types that we're getting in Dragon's Den, where they're actual like
We're just
people who are trying to scrape by. These are just people who are doing like competitive type things, and it's like, well, yeah, you're just selling another product. There's nothing like revolutionary about it. It's like
It seems, at least, and maybe it's again comes down to the production, like the producer, but it feels like on Shark Tank they've already kind of they've got the business everything together, and they've picked. I mean, they've got a bigger pool of people to pick from technically,
Yeah.
because they're American. But it feels like they've already got everything there, and everybody's kind of done their research on them ahead of time, and so it feels like a scripted interview. Where with Dragon's Den, it feels more like they like the producer interviewed them, and the producer was like, this is gonna be like a good story, and this is gonna be a flop, but it's gonna be entertaining, and it'll probably be valuable for you, and this one, and then they put them all together. So what it feels more like for an American reality TV show comparison is the Dragon's Den feels a lot more like the American Idol auditions, and Shark Tank feels like later round versions of it.
yeah, no, I could see that. Yeah. I've never watched past the auditions of American Idol, but no, I agree. Especially when it's like, oh wait, you spent 2 weeks with this family getting their backstory
Exactly.
before you got to this scene that you're about to show me, and you want me to pretend that you don't know
I like
these
to
people?
pretend that
And
you
it's
put
like,
a door on the outside of the CBC, and people were just like, "Ooh, they're doing auditions today," and then
That's
they wandered in off
100%
the
what it
street
was.
with a little duotang and went,
they
I
put
have
a
business.
radio ad because they own the radios as well, and that's what they did. They put out a radio station ad, and they're like, okay, the entrepreneurs,
Send in your-
come pitch your ideas.
Send in your idea, and then we'll let you know if you should come to Toronto, and we'll put you on the show. Like, it'll be great. That's I don't know. It just
It's it's the problem. It's because they both became successful. That's part of the problem. They both came mainstream, and then when something goes mainstream, you get all the like.
Yeah,
Everybody's going for it. So it's like the little guys are getting squished out of this again, when that was the whole point of this. It was for the little guys. If you're selling 400,000 units, you're not making money. That's because you don't know how to do math properly. It's like, that's not something you need
those are
like
my favorite though.
celebrity investors for.
Those are my favorite.
Well, those ones are interesting, but like, you know what I mean? Like the ones in the States, it feels a little bit like, oh, you did $1 million in revenue last year. It's just you didn't run your coffee shops properly. I'm sorry. That's not like, that doesn't feel like the spirit of the show to me.
Maybe
like,
you need a new fucking manager.
Correct. Well, that's the thing is some of these people come in and it's like, well, what are you going to do if you don't get it? Well, I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm not going to have the money. It's like, well, why don't you just do what every other business does and slowly grind away instead of getting a massive influx of investment?
Oh, that's the other thing. Yeah, it's very like, oh, we just like, this is the lottery. And we're trying to, they treat it exactly like a game show. And it's like, well, no, it's a business still. Like you're trying to like, yes, like kind of win the lottery of investors in a sense and get a little bit of marketing on this. But it's also like, you should be wanting to build your business, not like just to have somebody inject $1 million to save your thing, and you think that's what's going to make your business successful.
Exactly. It's one thing if you're going to get a partnership at it, but if you're just in there for the money, and most of them are there for inventory, then you should just do it the way everybody else does it, and slowly scale up.
Figure your shit out, brother.
Yeah, or get a loan.
Get a line of credit.
Exactly. But that's another thing
Pay
they
some
do.
interest.
They do a lot of that too on Shark Tank. Is a lot of really complicated business deals. And
they won't just go straight equity. Sometimes they're like, oh, we're just doing this and that. And
it's like obviously you've had A, time to figure this out, and B, you're talking to somebody who understands what you're talking about, because there's no way some of their offers that they threw out, like people that just started baking cookies in their kitchen and they're like, now I want to make it a scalable business, and they're like, well, we want a royalty, and
we'll give you $100,000 influx of cash right now, but you guys owe us 23% interest plus a 49% stake in your company, plus we want to add this to your whatever,
and we can convert this to this.
Why don't you go start your own goddamn cookie company then, fucking O'Leary? Eat shit.
See, the problem with the other problem with Shark Tank is that I started off hating Kevin O'Leary because I already know who he is.
Because he's a piece of shit.
And then sometimes he talks.
He ends up being the good guy.
Sometimes he talks, and I'm like, yeah, obviously. Like, how are you the level-headed one? What are we even watching? We're watching.
It is funny that he's the least, the most rational sometimes of the sharks.
It's really unfortunate considering they're I mean, it's Mark Cuban who owns a basketball team and other stuff.
He was a software
spot.
guy.
A guest spot. Kevin O'Leary, the lady from the shopping channel or QVC or whatever, and then Robert Herjavec, which I'm still not sure what he did, but he's also Canadian.
He's a cybersecurity. I don't know how that makes you millions of dollars, but cybersecurity.
Apparently, when you're the best at it.
I would like to see a show like that, I don't even know what you call it, the dog fight or something like that, where it's just rich people who didn't work, like the Trumps, get rich people who've never really had a legitimate job, who are just born rich, who then have to figure out what to do with their money to help businesses. That is a show I would sign off on, because it's people who have no fucking idea.
We'll call it the charity
just one. There we go. Cherry picking or something like that.
Charity pitch. Just have a bunch of different charities with all these. It's perfect for American television because it's like a tearjerker special interest thing.
Yeah,
do a little backstory
it would be like
on the charity of the soup kitchen in Cincinnati, and then they come in and pitch why they need $50,000 to pay for more Campbell's soup because they're too snobby to go and get the dollar store version or whatever. I don't know. I'm making stuff up. I should not be a television producer.
We need a new bus.
That was literally
people
an
kept
episode
telling
of
us to move the fucking bus, and we ran out of gas. Needs new brakes. The lines are gone.
That would be
we need a new bus.
That would be awesome. That would be stuff I would watch.
And then you just end up with Jerry Bruckheimer's kid and the other one from the Kroll Show, who is like, oh, what? Suela, get me my checkbook. I'd sign off on that shit. I would love that show.
Rich dicks.
Rich dicks. Like just
I don't know how many of them would sign up for it if it was called that.
Well, no, we just get
like
we'll just get
the
Kroll
gullible dumb ones who are just like, yeah, man, we have 8.7 million in the bank because Daddy gave us our inheritance at 17. Like, get the fuck
and you
out
can
of here.
and you can tell them that they're doing a good thing, and it'll be publicized, which will be very much on brand for what's happening right now. And like, see,
absolutely.
this seems like a no loss
Like
situation.
the Paris Hiltons of the world.
Hey, listen, Hollywood, this is
Like-
our best idea yet.
Fuck, like this is legit. This is even better than the commish.
Very little is better than
Well,
the commish.
Like
The-
this one
the
is
only
actually
part that I'm, like-
beneficial to the world.
The only part that I'm like a little bit like,
Then
is
tweak
that
it, Scott. Tweak it.
Well, the part like so the beneficial part to the billionaires and millionaires on Dragon's Den is that they could potentially make more money with that. So this
it's all
one,
about social
your guys'
capital.
pitch is, which I agree that is a thing.
Like,
but
okay, so we'll
you're
only
asking billionaires to sign up to just give money.
They're doing
away.
it
It's like,
anyway.
We'll
well,
go for the ones. We'll go for the ones who care more about their social brand. The ones who live all day on Instagram. The ones who have to fucking YouTube everything. We'll go for the ones whose name is their money.
they're already doing that. Is my point too. It's like, okay,
Are
so
they
you're just
teaming
gonna
up
kinda
and
compile
helping
it.
charities all
well,
together?
we
Well,
could
a lot of celebrities do help a lot of charities.
Are we talking about like? Is there a show called Charity Case?
Oh, that's a rough
No.
one. I was gonna go with Kardashians Cure Cancer, all with K's, but yours is so much better.
Whoa. We'll call it Charity Case, and then like we'll have it like kind of a misnomer because you'll think that the charity that they're trying to help is the charity that comes in, when in reality these humanitarians, these wonderful human beings who just need a little bit of influx of capital to keep their shit off the ground, keep it above board, keep it afloating down the river. They're actually the ones who put a little bit of humility in these rich motherfuckers' hearts when they're like, you know what, like, I've always had the privilege of eating legitimate Campbell's soup. I've never eaten No Name because Daddy actually owned the plantation that made the mushroom soup. So we've been good. You know what? Here's $20,000. And then they grow as a human fucking being.
Except
it turns
it's
out
like
that they're the charity case because they needed help.
except it's like really bad for society because the whole thing that's wrong now is that everybody needs their charity publicized when they're
There you
being
go. That's my point.
well, I'm
you're,
just
you're asking them to sign up to volunteer to be like, hey, I only care about giving to charity
if you know
are
what about
watching
it.
me do it.
I'm okay with that because it's a win. It's
How do we all
You're
know
okay
about
with
UNICEF
it. I'm saying
if it
the
isn't
celebrities
a largely
wouldn't want to
publicized
sign
thing?
up
It's
for
a-
it.
Every charity needs to be known about if that's the point,
it's not
right?
good for society, but it's not necessarily a bad thing either. At least
Well, no, I'm not saying it was
I think
good or
it's
bad
better
for
than
society.
rich people
I'm saying,
making more money, though. That's what I'm saying.
I'm saying there's no motivation for the rich people. There's not enough motivation for the
tons
rich
of
people.
motivation. All social capital. You're on television. Your
But they
brand
can
is out there.
they can already get that social cap. They can literally go on any morning show and talk about that.
But
stuff
my
any
TV
day of the
show is
week.
better.
Charity Case is going to be a fucking daytime Emmy winner.
I like how this charity
gonna
case
blow
discussion
the
was
view.
definitely.
Out of the water.
Moving
This is
on.
definitely even longer than our Godzilla talk.
Moving on.
Yeah, we actually talk more about this than anything. Hey, listen, Hollywood. The Godzilla.
I did watch other stuff
Yeah.
this week, believe it or not.
Okay.
All right.
We watched, I guess, Wanda Sykes' new comedy special. That gets
I
a
watched, like,
resounding
7 minutes of it and shut it the fuck down.
meh.
Shut it the fuck down.
I wasn't planning to check out this one. I think she's funny when she's acting and
On
stuff. Like,
something?
I like her.
Yeah.
Yeah. Her
I like
stand-up
her
I've
old
never really
stand-up.
enjoyed.
In what is it? Monster-in-Law. She's hilarious as like the assistant. Fucking
so funny.
she's wonderful.
I always love her as like the sassy sidekick. Like,
Yeah.
it's like,
I feel like
But-
there's just a lot of older comedians who they retired or they just stopped working because they didn't fucking have to anymore, and then all of a sudden Netflix is like, "Here's the check," and you're like, "Shit, I'm not Dave Chappelle. I can't just show back up and make a fucking
Well,
special."
part of the
but
allure with
she
Dave
thought
Chappelle
she
was that he disappeared forever
By
with
his own
no
volition.
trace,
No,
yeah,
just
he
because he
straight
could.
up
and
dropped
then
off.
Yeah,
came
he's
back
like,
and did
yeah,
3 hours in 3 months, or what felt like
Yeah.
3 hours in 3 months.
It made a
Yeah,
shit
it was
ton of
pretty
money.
close to that. Yeah.
Like it's even like that. Was it Chris Rock that came out last year? The My
Yeah.
Tambourine or whatever it was called.
Yeah.
Like, just Chris Rock was funny back in the day. and his new special was mediocre at best. Like Ray Romano was probably the best.
That
Like
was
hasn't done
so
comedy
good.
in forever, and then just pops back up and does it. Like
Yeah, no, that one was
if
really
Eddie
good. I like
Murphy at any point in the next couple of years is like, hey, I want to do Spit on It as a sequel to Raw.
I don't think
I'm gonna
that he
do it.
will. I don't think he will.
No, I don't think so either. From what I've
sure
heard,
shit
like
hope
from like
not.
Joe Rogan, it
He
doesn't seem
seems
like
he seems like he's got a little bit more integrity than that. Much like I don't know if Robin Williams would do that if he was still alive.
Oh, I thought you were just going to leave it at that, and I was like, well, we got some news for you, Craig. But anyways, Wanda Sykes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Meh.
Man,
That's all.
I accept
well,
that.
it's funny you say that because she made a lot of fuss about hers because Netflix didn't pay her as much as Dave Chappelle.
Oh God.
And
Who cares?
Dave
There's a
Chappelle's was
reason why it's
hilarious.
your brand.
And that's all I was thinking. I was like, oh, it's funny that you didn't like that one. And then our prime thing was of like great ones that came back was
There are
Dave
there
Chappelle.
are only
And it's like, oh,
two.
it's why he got paid
There are
more.
only two solid examples of good comedians that have come back that were not around before, or that disappeared for a bit, and that is Dave Chappelle and Ray Romano, and that is it.
Absolutely.
Even Jerry Seinfeld.
Dane
wasn't
Cook
that
sure as
good.
fuck isn't one.
Well,
Well, Jerry Seinfeld did his exact same stuff he did before. That was his
Exactly.
bit, like too. It's like I'm gonna tell you the same jokes I used to tell. I just cut some of these from specials, and now I'm gonna bring them in.
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, I wouldn't even put him in
Which-
the same group.
But I appreciate that though. At the same
It's
time,
like a
I'm
greatest
you know what,
hits
Jerry?
album.
Exactly, and it's like,
People buy that.
why
People
not?
buy that.
Like,
I feel like socially today, there's too many things all on the news, like, and I think we've mentioned it before on the pod, that like anyone can just turn on the news and see like the next comedy special, what it's going to be about. It's going to be about Trump. It's going to be about the divide in America. It's going to be about growing up poor. It's going to be about it's going to be about the big, the Big Ten.
yeah,
And like at one point, didn't watch your whole special. Like I said, I watched a couple minutes and shut the fuck down because I was like, oh, nope, not for me. And like I saw one of her jokes on like one of Netflix's like things sharing it, and it was like, it's 2019. If you don't have a black friend, you're the problem.
Yep.
And I was like, that's fair.
See,
But what about the places where you don't have the opportunity?
I said out
Like-
loud watching it. I said to Sam, I realize this is comedy, but it's coming from a very misinformed place.
Super preachy.
And it's coming back to me now. I can't remember the specific example that I thought of, but a lot of the examples that she gave, just based on my understanding of things, which could be wrong. Like her approach to it was very cherry picked in a way that obviously worked for comedy, but also works on a social level where people are like, yeah, that's exactly how it is. I don't think it had to do with pay gap, but that's one that tends to get picked on a lot, where it's like there's a huge gap, and then it's people that are like, yeah, we're getting paid less, and it's like, yeah, you are, but that's because from industry to industry they're not comparable. And so that's the thing, is it's
I don't
like,
get paid as much as New York hairdressers. You know why? Because I don't fucking live in New York.
that's part of it. It's
that's a big
if,
part of it.
if you want to be paid the same as everybody else, guess what?
You gotta do that
That's
shit.
You gotta
that's
do exactly the same.
communism.
Yeah.
Surprise!
Have you turned on any free agency like show of any sport where they're like, oh hey, we're the MLB and we're gonna pay this guy $3 million a year, but by the way, here's a $400 million contract to that guy.
Yeah, and nobody there
Not everyone's
is-
worth the same amount of money.
And
Yeah.
And I
That
hate to
applies
say
to
it, Wanda
all
Sykes'
jobs.
name brand is not nearly as high as
Dave Chappelle.
No,
a lot of
and
other
that's-
comedians. Like
that's
she's
all it comes
recognizable
down to.
by
Yeah.
every
You could argue that
definition of the
Chelsea.
word.
You know what? A good apples to apples. Well, a mediocre apples to apples comparison. It's more like an apple to a pear comparison, because you could get very specific about this. But you could argue that Amy Schumer has a higher name brand than Wanda Sykes does. And so
absolutely.
Amy
She
Schumer
does, and
should
she
be
got paid more.
better.
She's been more relevant over the past couple years. She's been more
Exactly.
prominent and stuff.
And she did.
Wanda
and you didn't
Sykes has been kind of like she's been the dog fart.
She didn't
She's
disappear
existed.
from the
She's
face
been
of the
there,
earth for-
but also she's not constant.
Yeah.
And
And like to me, she's not like a stand-up. Like I don't know her as a stand-up first. I know her.
I know her as an
I
extra.
supporting actor.
did not know her as an actress before I knew her as I knew her as a stand-up comedian.
Okay.
Whereas
but-
Chappelle, like I knew him as a stand-up at the same time I knew him from his show.
yeah.
You know, like
well, and it did a
it
comedy
might be just
show.
generational.
Yeah.
But I also grew up on like older comedy specials, like shit from like the late '80s and '90s, while I was getting into comedy. Like George Lopez was my go-to, and most of his stuff was from the '90s.
Yeah.
While I was like 14 years old.
Most of his stuff is still from the 90s because George Lopez has not aged.
Yeah,
Yeah. He
Yeah.
switched over to just doing the acting.
Yeah.
And that's what some of them do.
gotta do what you gotta do.
So I have
If Cedric the Entertainer, I wouldn't want to see him come back. Steve Harvey, I would sign up for that in an instant. But that's because he's my type of
God,
comedy.
I could not watch Steve Harvey for an hour. Are you kidding me? If they put
2
Steve
hours.
Harvey,
Give me a
if they
2-hour
put
Steve Harvey special.
if they did a 2-part Steve Harvey special on Netflix, you
I
would,
think that would just be a TED Talk. It would be a 2-part TED Talk.
first thing I would do is Google how do you block shows from Netflix. Like how do I hide this from never showing up?
So you wouldn't be on board for him to like Daniel Sloss it up?
No. See, I would rather watch Daniel Sloss 10 times in a row.
Absolutely, I can't deny you that.
I would rather watch James Acaster again 6 times in a row, and that was kind of hard to get through, but also really entertaining. I have one more thing on my list. This is the longest.
there.
This is the
was the
longest
longest.
of my what we watched this week's that
It
we've
was compelling conversation.
ever done.
though.
I've apparently watched a lot of hot button stuff. Are you ready? Are you ready though?
I'm ready.
Sam and I went and saw Aladdin on Saturday night.
Nice.
Bye, guys.
And
And it was way better than I thought it was going to be.
Ugh.
that's what I've been hearing so
It-
far. That's
Partially was shot for shot, which was really cool. Like
Ugh.
there were sections of it that were live action recreations
Yeah.
of exact scenes, and then there were other parts that were new, and all of it was great, and I did not hate any of that movie.
Ugh.
well, that's good. That surprised me a
I'm
little bit. I don't
surprised-
know why. I thought
I'm
you would have not liked
surprised
it even
too
more.
because I'm not in support of the live action remaking of the Disney films. However,
No.
for some reason, this one actually turned out okay. And Will Smith is not Robin Williams, but he plays a good genie that isn't Robin Williams.
He's a good Will Smith.
Exactly.
yeah.
See, that's the thing is that I watched it.
Yeah.
You watch it going in with the expectation, and I think that they eased it in really well, because the first time you run into the genie in the Cave of Wonders, it's supposed to be like a re-representation of the Robin Williams bit, what with the song and everything like that, and they do a lot of the
Yeah.
same things. But it's slowly kind of easing you into the Will Smith, and then they get out of the
Yeah.
Cave of Wonders, and it's just like, yep, here we are, Will Smith for the rest of the way.
Can't
Right
do
on.
it.
I heard he does a rap at the end, which is what I'm most excited for.
If that's after the credits, we'd
This
not
isn't
pay
the
enough attention.
'90s.
It was during the credits.
Okay, well, we were there for that.
Okay, so it's supposed to be like it starts off like DJ Khaled,
Yes,
and then
yeah.
it goes into Will Smith rapping
Yes,
over the
that did
lyrics
happen.
or over the credits for
I do remember
So we-
that.
Yeah, so that was Will Smith. He's back to writing songs for movies, and that means Scott's happy again with the world.
So I liked it. I liked it more than I thought I was going to. I don't
Yeah.
think that that's going to mean I'm going to enjoy The Lion King when it comes out in July.
Yo, that movie can fucking drown itself in a puddle, for God's sakes.
That's spoilers, man. I hear that's how they kill Mufasa.
Okay, if they came out tomorrow and they were like, by the way, we recast and we brought in Jeremy Irons as Scar, I'd be like, you know what? Maybe it can choke on the water, but it can live. It doesn't need to drown in the puddle. Jeremy Irons exists, bro. Fucking like jerk him off in a back alley. Do what you got to do to get him back as Scar. Why would you even consider casting anyone but him as Scar? Why? Why?
Couldn't tell you. But you did remind
How?
me of
How the fuck do you bring back the guy who voices Mufasa and not even be like, oh, maybe we should get some of the other guys that are alive?
James Earl Jones.
Like, Like, why? Ugh.
Yeah, we can't help you with that.
We'll talk. We'll talk
Because there's
about
no
that in
fucking
July.
answer for it. It's bullshit.
Like,
Ugh.
Oh, I'm sure we'll
Yeah,
discuss this
that
more
one's
once the
gonna-
movie comes
The
out.
only thing that would
Yeah.
be worse is if they were like, "Oh, hey, by the way, The Rock plays this," and they just like chisel him in there somehow. Like, The Rock plays the talking tree.
it's just The Rock.
Like,
He's just a guy.
yeah, The Rock he's Pride Rock.
He's just a guy. He's just walking through the back of the set.
Like in the background.
Yeah, exactly.
Like
See,
the
I'd like
lions
that,
are
like-
chasing, it's just The Rock fucking running with the wildebeest. Like, oh no!
Very.
Like, oh
He's
shit,
just on
Scar did that.
vacation in a Disney movie. I'd like that.
So that discussion, weirdly enough, reminded me of one other thing that I watched this week.
There we go.
We watched.
This is why I talk, to jumpstart memories.
We watched Blackfish as well. Have either of you seen that documentary?
Yeah, that's the
No, I've heard
SeaWorld
about it, though.
documentary.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. And the only reason that I was reminded
What
of
a
that was
bummer.
because you said Jeremy Irons, and Jeremy Irons reminded me of James Earl Jones, and James Earl Jones was on the SeaWorld training videos, and
There
that's
we
how
go.
we got to Blackfish.
Man, what a long map for a small drink of water, buddy.
Oh well. The little lions are gonna
Small
choke on
swimming
that
pool.
little drink of water, according to you.
That's true. Those motherfucking piece of shit remake of The Lion King. God damn it.
You're very pash.
I need
Like,
Lion King to do really well.
You're really bitter about things recently, eh?
I am, okay? I'm so sick of fucking Hollywood rehashing rehashes.
All right.
And then when their original shit is just like somehow a twist of something else too, like the day they announced that they're remaking like Gone with the Wind or Casablanca, like timeless classics, I'm fucking done.
I want them to
I'm
do a
gonna be
live
like,
action
Kendall?
Toy Story.
Kendall, I adore. No, you can't. You can't
See,
do
that's
that.
that's where I'll join Andrew. Is like, no, please don't.
I'm
They're toys.
Just
Yeah.
kidding. Live action Fox and the Hound, is that too much for you?
Yeah, because they're animals. Like CGIing animals is
I
just a
agree.
highly resolutionized animation.
I agree. I'm not a huge fan of that concept either, which is why I think
If you want to CGI me the Robin Hood animated movie where they're all animals, fucking go nuts, because that movie was awesome, and I don't care either way because most people probably haven't even fucking seen
I
it.
don't think they should
I love
redo
that
But-
one.
I don't think they should. They should.
Maybe
leave that
they
one
should,
alone.
because then people get pissed and stop going and paying Disney $700 trillion a minute.
Thank God
It's funny because you've got Disney as like your two top draft picks, and they've made you so much money this year.
They were logical decisions, okay?
That's fair.
Not
It
every-
It
was
doesn't
more
mean
just for
I'm
the
not
draft.
sick of their bullshit. I'm tired of like the amount of money that Amazon made and the fact that they didn't really pay much taxes last year. But I'm also going to keep ordering my razor blades from them because it's a cheap option. It's a logical move. I hate Ford as our premier. He sucks, but he is so good for me as a business. That's what I'm saying. Like sometimes logic takes over.
That's a fair point. That's a fair.
Scott, what did you watch this week? We need to
Um,
please
so-
something that's not controversial.
Something that's not going to
Oh,
piss me
that's-
off.
I can't necessarily. So we'll find out. Actually, we'll dive. I don't think
Okay.
I have anything controversial. The first thing I watched was Mission Impossible Fallout. That got added to Netflix.
Not
so I
bad.
checked it
It's
out.
not bad, eh? It's not great,
I
but it's
enjoyed
not
it.
bad.
I wish they kept Henry Cavill alive. That's about all I've liked to like. My only
He was a
gripe
cool
with the whole
villain
thing.
because you don't really see him in the villain part.
I don't know if I saw it coming or if I had heard a podcast and so I knew it was coming.
Like it seemed like a logical twist in the trailer
Yeah.
because they didn't really set it up for like actually having a villain. So
Yeah.
like it made sense. My issue with him as the villain though was that he relied too much on his brawn. Like, I mean, he's a big dude with a sexy mustache, but like their whole fight in the bathroom was just like him throwing punches.
See,
Like-
and I really like that though because he's like a tank. Like especially when you compare him to like Tom Cruise, who is the smaller, kind of more finesse of a fighter. Having to like use different forms of martial
Yeah.
arts to like fling people because he's never at a physical. Like Tom Hanks, or not Tom Hanks, Tom Cruise is never at the physical advantage like Henry Cavill, who most of the time, as always is, and at least in this movie, always was that like the physical advantage. You didn't run into like any of the rocks or anything. But yeah, no, I enjoyed it. It was fun. Like I like the Mission Impossibles. I'm curious if they keep doing more. I'm sure they will. But yeah, so I watched that on Netflix. I watched some more Doom Patrol. That's about to wrap up on Crave. I checked out this other movie called Terminal, which is a few years old. Has Margot Robbie in it, Simon Pegg, and a few other people, Mike Myers. And it's about Margot Robbie's character who wants like the contract, like the assassin contract work from this mysterious guy, and so she has to like kill off her, the one, like her competitors, so other assassin people, and she goes through a very convoluted way of going about it, and then there's a whole big twist, and it ends, and it was pretty trippy. I enjoyed it. I don't know if I'll ever watch it again, just because like once you get the twist at the end, you're like, okay, this is the only reason any of this movie makes sense, really, for her to go to this extent when she's like, she could have just shot the people, and she doesn't do that, but that's kind of what she leads to anyway. So it's like, yeah, it was weird, but I love Margot Robbie, and watching her for 2 hours is just enjoyable. So
Yeah, she does nothing for me. So
that's fair. It's fair. I find her distractingly attractive. Like I cannot look away from the screen. So yeah. Anyways, I also watched this. I watched a comedy special as well. I watched Brandon Schaub's You'd Be Surprised, which is his first comedy special. He's the fighter of the Fighter and the Kid podcast with Brandon Callen, so it's his first comedy special. It was on Crave because it was a Showtime special, and it was okay. A few too many of his jokes were just stories that I'd already heard on the podcast several times, so it's kind of like,
that's the problem with being familiar with.
That's what I was gonna say. Like that's what I've had a little problem with a lot of comedians lately. Is I'm like, oh, I've heard some of your bits in a podcast before, and then I hear it in the special.
Or seeing it on like late night TV shows.
Exactly. Yeah. And so that's partly how I felt about his. There's a lot of it. I'm like, oh, I already know this. I've heard you pretty much tell your entire set throughout the course of me listening to your podcast for the last 2 years. So it's like, I guess that's not something against it. It's just like, it's harder to enjoy it when it's like, oh, I already know, and it's my own fault because I keep up with them so much. But it's also like, I don't know. It was a weird thing when I'm sitting there and I'm like, I haven't watched this before, but I've definitely heard all these jokes before. So it's very like, there's a weird feeling like watching, like, cause you're watching this comedy special that just came out a week ago, right? And it's like, well, no, but I know all these jokes. It's a weird feeling, but it was enjoyable nonetheless. I feel like if you don't listen to his podcast every week, it should be enjoyable, especially since he like tells the story of how he goes from being an MMA fighter to being a comedian, and how having comedian friends is kind of what helped him get to that transition. So it was pretty good. But yeah, the last thing I watched that I actually wrote down was this cooking kind of short, like a short limited series called Salt, Fat, Acid, and Heat. It's just a 4-part series on each of those words, which is based off a book, and it just goes into how each of those are like pretty much the bases of like cooking in a sense, or like the tasting. Exactly. Like if you enjoy taste of food, it's because of one of those 4 things or a combination of those 4 things. So it's really interesting to kind of learn about like different things and how like fruits and acid, and how I knew that, but I never thought about it, and why that's what makes it like have a certain. So it's just interesting to kind of learn about these
sweet
things.
Or like a neutral flavor. Or
exactly.
It can
like
be
just
bittersweet.
Like it's very like kind of, I don't want to say common sense stuff, but it is a little common sense, but it's also like kind of just told in a way that you're like, oh, okay, I guess I never thought of that's why I add butter to my, everything kind of deal. It's just kind of interesting to think. And
some guys like butter.
Some guys like butter.
Yeah. But yeah, that was the last thing I watched. Yeah.
Damn, that's
fast.
Everything.
It was a short list.
We can't all talk for 25 minutes about your fantastic week, Craig.
I didn't even watch that much.
Oh, but we talked about that much.
No, we did.
It just sparked some interesting stuff, that's all.
Yeah.
All right.
But yeah, I believe that's everything.
That's all we got.
Thanks for listening to our Godzilla episode.
Oh, yeah.
So
I forgot that's
wrote.
what we talked about at the beginning for 15 minutes.
Yeah, we didn't really talk about it. We touched base.
This is definitely going to be called the WWWtW edition with a little Godzilla. At the
Hour and
beginning.
20-minute episode, and we spent 15 minutes on Godzilla.
Y'all got jobs? We talk about Godzilla sometimes.
All right.
No, we don't.
Talk to you next week, I guess.
Bye.
Thanks for listening.
Bye.
Bye.